So one of the things I do want to clarify a little bit also is you touched on the earnest money and how a buyer through no fault of their own can get that back. There are some things that have to happen. There's a process for that to happen. So in the event a deal is going to fall apart through no fault of the buyer, that is something that has to be agreed on by the buyer and seller. So there's a document that has to be produced. Both the buyer and seller have to agree to return the earnest money before that can happen. So there's somewhat of a process to make sure that you could get your earnest money back. So, and that's one of the things that I would go through with people when we do the first-time home buyer consultation. So on top of that, some of the things that they need to consider is not only the earnest money, not only the down payment, but fees, right? So here's some fees that you should keep in mind. I jotted them down here. Home inspection starting around $450, pest inspection around $110, a radon inspection. If you don't know about radon gas, it's a natural gas that comes out of the ground everywhere, and it's more prevalent in some areas of Northwest Ohio than others. A chimney inspection could be $150 to $400. Septic inspections, if you're in a rural area where you've got a septic system, that's something you definitely want to do. If your septic system fails, it's 20, 25, 30 years old, you could be looking at as much as $35,000 to get those things taken care of. And some other fees that are somewhat rare, but things you could consider if you're buying a home with a pool. You know, are you buying it in the middle of winter? Or are you buying it in the summertime? Can you inspect the pool? Have somebody come over and take a look at that and make sure you don't have any major inspections that you're looking for there. Plus sprinkler systems, and possibly, especially if you're in a rural area, looking at surveys and having a survey done. That could take some time and some money. Could be as much as $1,500 or $2,000. So on that subject, David, fees, right? There's always some fees tied to these things. How can you expand upon that a little bit?
As you just listed those off, it seems like those fees can really mount up, and frankly, they can. But that's why we're talking about this. People, at least if they're aware, if their eyes are open to all of these things or most of these things, then it won't be quite the sticker shock when it comes down to actually paying the money that's needed. In addition to what you listed, we'll go a couple of other ones that are common. The sellers are of the house are typically going to pay the broker's fee, the real estate agent, like yourself. But if you are a buyer and you use a buying agent, somebody that has helped you go from home to home and help you find that right house, you could pay up to 3% of the purchase price as a commission to your buyer's agent. Okay. And this is another thing that's paid at closing. Mm-hmm. Additionally, if most people are getting a mortgage for this major purchase, mortgage lenders can charge an origination fee of about 1%. A few other things, you mentioned a lot of different inspections, some possible surveys, but there's also, you might be asked to pay points, which is prepaid interest on the mortgage loan. Again, we're just covering the surface of these and listing these out. There's a whole lot more detail that goes beyond that. In addition to other things like if the home is in a homeowners association, that HOA, they can charge fees. A title company charges fees. Recorder of the deeds, and even a few others, as you already mentioned.